My name is Michelle Botelho, and I'm running for the U.S. congressional seat for the 5th District of Connecticut. And like I said, there's 41 cities in the district. Connecticut has 5 districts and currently has a one-party rule, just like our country. That has to change.
Amen.
Well, why I'm running for Congress. I'm running for Congress because I cannot stand by and watch our country fall apart. I love it too much. I love the people of the state and the country. The people in charge are trying very hard to transform this country from a free, prosperous nation to a power-hungry, government-controlled nation. No one seems to have any accountability anymore, and without accountability, we as a nation will fall. Wrong will become right. Right will become wrong. We are seeing it happen now. I am first accountable to God, and then my constituents and the American people. So our country was founded on biblical principles. We need to return to this founding. We will fall as other powerful nations have fallen. I've always been afraid about how long this experiment of a republic we live in would last. And now my fears are coming true, that it is being destroyed right before our eyes. You don't know how good you have it until it is taken away. What is more frustrating is that some, not all Republican officials, govern with their emotions and their ties to their position that help Democrats always win, always win. Right now, we have a slim majority in the House and the Senate. We need to elect people who won't compromise for radical ideologies. All Republicans need to stand up for this country. They talk about working across the aisle. I think working together is how you get things done. But unfortunately, you cannot work with this current administration. When you have people that berate and apologize for the country they govern, they are not capable of working together for the common good. It's not about Democrat versus Republican anymore. It's about saving this country from radical ideologies, economic ruin, and tyrants. Why am I running? Because our elected officials are doing nothing to help its people. I'm not seeing checks and balances, and I'm noticing laws that are being pushed through in haste. Congress took an oath to protect the Constitution and uphold our laws. Not only is it not doing that, but they are taking away our liberties. More importantly, our government is not doing the basic thing government is supposed to do, and that is to keep us safe and secure. I want to and will do what Congress is supposed to do, and that is uphold our laws, our Constitution, and help create new laws that benefit our country. The Constitution of the United States of America defines principal organs of government and their jurisdictions and the basic rights of citizens, Bill of Rights. The first 10 amendments of the Constitution reinforces individual rights and the limitations on federal and state governments. The First Amendment guarantees freedoms concerning religion, expression, assembly, and the right to petition. We have parents concerned about their children being taught, and if their children are safe in the schools they attend, practicing their First Amendment rights, and they are getting arrested and labeled as domestic terrorists. The teachers in the state of Connecticut are wonderful. I've worked with some. But it's the forced curriculum that comes from the federal money that is corrupting our children's minds. Parents have the right to know if their daughter will be safe using the bathroom, and if she will not get a scholarship because she has to compete with a male-born body. I know Connecticut girls had to fight for this. They did and won, so we can't stop fighting. Parents need to have their tax money go to schools that will teach children how to be good, prosperous citizens of the country that they should be taught to love. Some may say that a teacher with F the police poster, or F America spelled with 3 Ks, this is native land, is free speech. I say it's vulgar, and leave the country if you want to spread such propaganda, especially young impressionable children in school. The Patriot Act was passed by Congress as a response to the terrorist acts of September 11, 2001. The act allows the NSA and the FBI to track and intercept communications, both for purposes of law enforcement and foreign intelligence gathering. It was supposed to be used against Islamic terrorists, but now it is being used against American parents. This is not only dangerous to domestic policies, but to our national security. Liz Cheney, a so-called conservative congresswoman, is on the panel calling for text messages and phone records of January 6 trespassers who haven't been convicted of a crime. Congress needs to focus on the threat of China and the Middle East and its terrorist attacks. The Second Amendment protects individuals' rights to possess a firearm and to use it lawfully, such as self-defense within a home. During the early days of COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, our governor, Len Lamont, signed an executive order ending fingerprinting services, which in turn made it impossible for residents to become first-time gun owners. Under state law, before anyone could legally purchase a firearm, they must possess either a pistol permit or a certificate of eligibility. Since you can't do that without submitting your fingerprints, gun owners were out of luck. At least until the Connecticut Citizens Defense League stepped in and filed suit over Lamont's executive order. Senator John Kennedy quoted, "I believe love is the answer, but you ought to own a handgun just in case." He also stated, "I don't believe in gun control. We need more idiot control." I can't agree more. What do you think? The Fourth Amendment protects personal privacy and every citizen's right to be free from unreasonable government intrusion into their persons, homes, businesses, and property. In this $5 trillion welfare bill, President Biden's Build Back Better program, pay your fair share, that every Democrat in Congress voted for, is calling for the IRS to gather bank information of every American's bank account without probable cause. The Secretary of the Treasury claims it would be for detecting tax fraud. If that's the case, and there is a tax gap, then a fair way of collecting taxes should be proposed. The DIA, or the Dedicated Internet Access, admitted it was warrantlessly tracking the moves of innocent Americans through commercial software. Such tracking has been going on since late in the Obama administration. The Eighth Amendment prohibits excessive fines, excessive bail, and cruel and unusual punishment. I'm not condoning anyone breaking into the Capitol building, but these unarmed trespassers were put in solitary confinement and left in jail for months. Some are still there, while our BLM and Antifa friends were allowed to burn down and loot our cities. And those who got arrested were bailed out by an organization that our vice president promotes. Crime is up everywhere. Why isn't that an issue for the state in this country? For the state and this administration. Instead, democratically controlled House, including your current Congresswoman, voted for H.R. Bill 1280 that calls to take money away from state and local police departments, and among other lunacy policies, it calls to end court-created qualified immunity for officers. So pretty much it means if they get sued, they're done. It also takes money away from the local and state departments. But good news, the Supreme Court just shut down 2 cases dealing with this, so there's hope. The 10th Amendment states, powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution are reserved to states respectively, or to the people. Most powers are reserved to the states. The current administration is trying to impose federalism. The democratically controlled House passed H.R. 1 for the People's Act. Sounds harmless enough. But the federal government wants to take over the state elections, and this bill states that you don't need an ID to vote. They want to get rid of the filibuster in order to pass this. How convenient for the Democrats. The president actually stated that he will get rid of state governors if they don't follow his plans. The 14th Amendment, no state shall make or enforce any law, and I'm going to add mandate, which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of laws. Vaccination and mask mandates have been given as do as I say and not as I do. Choices have not been given to our doctors, nurses, manufacturing workers, truck drivers, police, and military, and now they are resigning from their jobs. They are our economy, our health, and our safety. It's against the law what this administration is doing, and some states are doing, and no one is being held accountable. We are sacrificing our economy, our health, and our national security. The current administration was contemplating on invoking the 14th Amendment as justification for continued borrowing to raise the debt ceiling. Congress is the purse of the government, so we need fiscally conservatives who want our economy to grow, not shovel exorbitant amount of debt onto our children and our grandchildren. First, government does not make money. They take money. And don't get me wrong, for good reason. I like having police, and lots of them with guns. I like to drive over roads that have no potholes. I like drinking clean water. But today's Democratic Party and politicians have a spending problem, and they want to pay back their donors and unions. They want to bail out failing companies and fulfill unelected bureaucrats' dreams of transforming our country, for those who think we are destroying it, by just living our lives. Do you like that one, guys? They want to transform our country because they think we're destroying it by just the way we're living. All right, so I'm sorry, I have to go here, climate change. This is what this bill is pretty much about. So this administration intentionally shut down our biggest economic sector and jobs for foolish ideals. Apparently, only America is the cause of climate change because Russia is able to build its gas pipeline to supply Europe with its energy needs. And this administration is begging, yes, I said begging, OPEC, the Middle East, to produce more oil to supply to the US. I'm at a loss, except a little perspective. Glacier National Park had to take down a sign they had up for years stating that all the glacier ice caps would be melted in 2020. I guess the sign was wrong. Fertilizer. No, not funny. Fertilizer. To produce fertilizer, you need high-intensity heat, which natural gas can produce. I'm not sure a windmill will cut it. And the last time I checked, fertilizer really helps to grow our plants for food. According to a new study published in the journal Nature Climate Change on April 25th from NASA, temps are cooler now, and vegetation is increasing, and the earth is greener. We all know how photosynthesis works, and apparently more carbon in the air is enhancing that. These so-called climate disasters have been happening since after the fall of Adam and Eve in the garden. And for us to be relying on electricity to run the country could prove devastating. I mean, look what happened to Texas and California last winter. I have nothing against using clean energy when possible, but not when it will affect our way of living and give more power to the elite. Kamala Harris walked out of her government SUV onto her government plane to lecture us about how we need to end emissions. It's so hypocritical, it's comical. A little about me. As you can hear, I'm a conservative Christian who believes in less government, more individual responsibility to live a prosperous life. My husband Jim manages a small business in Danbury, and both my children are in college now. I studied government and law, and I worked for the Mass Department of Labor and the IRS. I worked with children in the public school system, and I've also worked to help our elderly. My grandparents and my parents immigrated here and went to school, learned to speak the language, and became legal citizens. They left Mussolini's fascist government. My grandmother told me stories, and they always started with, "Thank God for what you have." Stories were about them having to ration their food supply, government handouts that eventually ran out, and no jobs. At the time, I couldn't understand that way of living because I was in a country of plenty. I had a job at the age of 14. My mother and I took care of my grandmother until she passed, and her words still stick with me. My grandmother didn't have time to think about what pronouns she should be called, and the climate, something that she and we do not have control over, because she had to think about how she would feed her family and ways to survive. I visited Italy and Europe quite a bit in the 1990s, and recently I brought my children back there about 3 years ago. I couldn't believe the change. I saw people who have emigrated there and did not want to assimilate. They try to take over the culture. I saw lack of jobs, people struggling to pay basic necessities because there are no jobs. Please don't buy into this European socialist utopia.
That's right.
It's the scam of the century.
Amen. Right.
I don't want this to happen to our country. All of Europe is socialist with open border policies and soft on crime. I I believe the Europeans realize, though, how open borders have done to their country, because they recently slowed the border crossings. On the note of my grandmother, we have forgotten our elderly in this country. I worked with them, and they need our help and support more than ever now. I feel we are really hurting our most vulnerable populations, the children and the elderly. I worked with children who had Down syndrome, and I was a voice and a representative for them because they could not speak. They thrived because they had family and community that cared for them. I was their voice, but they were my inspiration. Government is supposed to keep us safe. Our border is wide open. We alienated our allies. We've enhanced the growth of a terrorist nation that was defeated. We need secure borders. I repeat, we need secure borders. Right. We are a gracious nation. We are a gracious nation, and you are welcome to come to this country, but do it legally, right, as many have. We need to stand up for small businesses in this country, bring back our jobs from China, overseas. In fact, climate enthusiasts should want to bring back jobs from China, since they are building 2 coal power plants a week because they are struggling to produce energy for their people. Also, we are one of the most environmentally regulated countries, so bring back our jobs. Right. We need to start producing our own pharmaceuticals. I can't believe we got into a point. I can't believe we got into a point where we allowed China and other countries to produce 90% of our pharmaceuticals. If you're worried about healthcare in this country, that should be at the top of the list.
That's right.
Also, at the top of the list should be voting conservatives to Congress. When your livelihood and well-being depends on government, think about the supply chain crisis we are experiencing now. And may I state, government is giving hard-working taxpayer money to people to stay home. And the more that is inflated, the more freedoms we lose, and we will run out of other people's money. We wouldn't have such a supply chain issue if we manufactured products here. Right. We are innovative and smart. That's why China copies everything from us. And after learning that our own non-elected bureaucrats had some role in helping China unleash this pandemic all over the world, accountability is a must. And there has got to be some sort of punishment, because if not, it's going to continue. It's just going to happen again. I'm serious, this is not hard. It just doesn't fit the elite narrative. Please don't buy the talking points that only those making $400,000 a year will be taxed. Looming all over our small businesses and corporations are tax increases in the Democrats' reconciliation bill, which will pass to working middle-class families in the form of higher prices, fewer jobs, and lower wages. More jobs will leave our country, and we will be in competition with migrants that are getting parole and green cards automatically so they can work here. The Joint Committee on Taxation estimates that 25% of corporate tax falls on workers, while the Tax Foundation estimates that 70% of this tax is borne by labor. The Tax Policy Center concluded that Biden's budget would result in higher taxes for 75% of middle-income households by 2031. And the TPC found that 95% of our income group will see a tax increase due to the expiration of the middle-class tax cuts and corporate tax increases. These tax increases are mostly for a radical agenda to transform this country. Reconciliation is how Obamacare got passed. Now that I've given you a nice, warm, fuzzy feeling of our nation, this doesn't have to be the norm. We are the hardest working people in the world, and we have all to do to fight back and vote these destructionists out of office. We are at a crossroads now. Let's reclaim our nation and take back our rights, take back our ability to work, make our own money, and provide for our families. Also give to those in need. Let's take back our streets, get crime off of them. When you are a law-abiding citizen and criminals know that they will not get away with their crime, the crime probably won't be committed. This is not a difficult concept.
Yeah, that's right.
This country is being divided, rhetoric and fear. Something is wrong with your elected officials when they accuse you to want to make your own choices for your body and claim that you are the cause of the pandemic. Do I have to say it? China? Or how does Trump say it? China. We need to vote these people out and revive a culture of excellence and God-fearing people and hold corrupt institutions accountable. This administration wants to spend your money to prosperity. How about you spend your money to prosperity? Government needs to step out of the way and do what it's supposed to. Help us live our lives in peace and keep us safe on our own streets and our borders.
Yes.
How can Congress remedy all this? First, because our government has more positions tied to bureaucracy and has corrupted every administration we have, let's elect representatives that won't allow for this and hold them accountable. Remember, Congress is the purse of this nation. I am a Republican that will stand up for this country. I want to be the voice for the 5th District of Connecticut in Washington and let them know that people of Connecticut don't want inflation, mandates, high taxes, especially for policies that they don't stand for. They want to have heat in the winter and AC in the summer without going into debt. They want to find and buy food in the grocery stores without going into debt. They want to feel safe walking on the street, and they want to have choices and authority over their bodies and health. I will push and help sign into law to undo everything they are trying to do and possibly will enact. I want to pass a bill to protect our medical choices from discrimination. I do believe some Republicans are trying to do that now, but unfortunately, without a majority, it won't be likely to pass. If you want to keep the status quo and talking points, then keep our current representatives in office. But if you want your country back, I'm asking for your vote. I want to help you get this country back. I want to get this country back. It's unnerving that we have such a fear of government. We need to remember government works for the people, not the other way around.
That's right.
We fought wars and many battles to keep governments in check and to keep our freedoms. If you want a safe and prosperous country, please vote for me and other conservatives who want to serve you next November. Please go and vote, and if you are not registered, then please go on the State of Connecticut website to register to vote. Please help others to register to vote, and then tell them to vote. Let's take back our country and flip this house in 2022.